city is the center of the economy. It can even be a tourist and entertainment place. But what happens when all the residents in the city suddenly disappear? If a house that has been abandoned for a long time and has been neglected can give off a spooky feel, what if it was a city that was abandoned? These abandoned cities then create an urban tale that makes you shudder. The following several dead cities have their own causes and reasons why they were abandoned by their inhabitants. Then, what city is it? Here are 5 ghost towns that have a scary story behind them. Pripyat, Ukraine. The city of Pripyat is located in Ukraine. On April 26, 1986, there was a massive explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The accident was recorded as the worst nuclear accident in history. The closest city to the explosion site was the city of Pripyat, which made radioactivity air freely throughout the sky. Around 49,000 residents, including factory workers to scientists, were evacuated by the government. After that, no one returned to Pripyat city. A doll damaged and rotting due to exposure to nuclear radiation. Contained there is a picture of how powerful the nuclear explosion was. Before the explosion, Pripyat had complete facilities. Pripyat has kindergartens, elementary schools, high schools, shops, malls, restaurants, and amusement parks. But all was abandoned due to the nuclear accident that occurred. Since the disaster, several animals and plants have shown signs of being exposed to radiation. The organisms responsible for decomposition also show symptoms of radioactive contamination. One that stood out the most was the bloody red forest, where all the pine trees that were there had turned blood red. Pripyat has been declared dangerous for human habitation for at least 24,000 years due to radioactivity. Oradour-sur-Glane, France. The Second World War left many scars, one of which is the city of Oradour-sur-Glane, France. This city is a silent witness to the World War II. Actually, Oradour-sur-Glane is a village in Haute-Vienne, but because it is too large, this village is more often known as a city. Since June 10, 1944, the city has never been inhabited again. At that time, about 150 German troops entered Oradour-sur-Glane. For no apparent reason, Hitler's elite troops destroyed all the buildings in this city and brutally killed 642 innocent people. The city that was once peaceful and serene has now become a horrible and abandoned empty city. There were no longer the gleeful laughter of children, nor of adults milling about Oradour-sur-Glane. The condition of the building was falling apart, and several carcasses of ownerless vehicles rusted by the side of the road. Some people who are moved to make this city more lively, then create an organization that allows travelers to explore this city. The city also made several buildings to commemorate the victims. For example, a monument that stands tall in the middle of a city on the walls of which is written the names of 642 victims. There is also a car wreck belonging to a doctor who treated victims at the shelter camp at that time. They also make tour packages and provide rooms for tourists to stay. During your stay, you will be free to explore every corner of the dead city that is not equipped with electricity. According to information from visitors who have been there, Oradour-sur-Glane is thick with mystical nuances. Nagoro, Japan. If you have a list of holidays to Japan, take the time to stop by a quite unique village called Nagoro. The village of Nagoro, located west of Shikoku, Japan, used to be home to hundreds of people. However, many residents migrate to the cities for work, leaving only a small number of elderly residents. In the early 2000s, Ayano Tsukimi returns to her home in Nagoro after decades of living in the metropolis, Osaka. He was very sad when he found his village that resembled a ghost town. Then, he started making life-size dolls to represent the residents who had left the village, and placed the dolls in various angles. The dolls are positioned like residents in general, with poses like people doing their daily activities. Some man shops, waited at bus stops, and seemed to be in the crowd. Tsukimi also gives clothes to each doll she makes. Now the number of dolls has exceeded the previous number of residents in the village. In the last 12 years, Tsukimi has made more than 350 dolls. Tsukimi also looks after and takes care of several dolls that are worn out due to exposure to the sun, such as replacing them with new dolls or just changing clothes. Hashima, Japan. Hashima Island is a tourist spot in Japan that is only visited by people who have the guts. Located 15 kilometers from Nagasaki City, the island of Hashima, known as Gunkanjima, is one of 505 uninhabited islands in Nagasaki Prefecture. Hashima Island only has an area of 6.3 hectares. Even so, between 1887 to 1974, the island of Hashima was inhabited by 5,200 residents, making it the world's most populous island. They are coal miners. This island has large concrete buildings that are still standing and a sea wall around it. The mine project that closed in 1974 left the island of Hashima abandoned by miners, most of whom were men. Because it was abandoned, the building began to break down and collapse. Hashima is officially a ghost town. While the island is a symbol of Japan's thriving industry, it is also a war crimes reminder of being a place of forced labor before and during the Second World War. Even though it is known as an empty island, tourists are actually interested in Hashima and his dark past. Centralia, Pennsylvania, USA. The city of Centralia in Pennsylvania, United States of America, has experienced neglected fires for more than 60 years. Some 60 years ago, Centralia was a coal mining town of over 1,000 people. However, in 1962, a large fire broke out within the underground labyrinth where the coal mine was located. These fires were not visible from the surface, but still persist today. The underground fire will continue to burn for at least another 100 years. Because of this disaster, the United States government finally decided to buy the houses there and relocate the residents. Although there were some residents who chose to stay, Centralia was now a ghost town with broken roads and occasional flames rising from cracks in the ground. Apart from smoke rising from cracks in the ground and a few trees turning into charcoal, satellite images of the city show that there are almost no buildings left. Meanwhile, one of the freeways that passed through the city was finally closed and had to be diverted around the city. However, the town remains home to its 6 surviving and remaining residents. Poveglia, Italy. Poveglia is an uninhabited island located in Italy. This island was built by the government of Venice. From 1793 to 1814, it was used as a quarantine location for the bubonic plague. The small island is said to have hosted more than 160,000 people who were infected with the bubonic plague and spent the rest of their lives there. Poveglia Island is known as a mass grave because 50% of the land consists of the remains of corpses. In 1922, an asylum was opened on the island. Local residents said that the doctor was mad and evil because he often tortured and killed many of his patients. Although it was declared a former nursing home, there is clear evidence that it housed patients with mental disorders. Then the hospital closed in 1968, and the ruins that were there were slowly being reclaimed by greenery. Poveglia is currently strictly off-limits to visitors without a permit. However, visitors can observe the lagoons around this mysterious island via a mystery tour using a boat and guided by a tour guide. They will explain about the myths, legends, and mystical stories in Poveglia. This private tour lasts about 3 hours. Whittingham, Australia. One of the most dangerous and contaminated places on planet Earth is a city called Whittingham in Australia. This uninhabited ghost town was once a toxic asbestos mine. It is located deep in a remote area in the Pilbara, Western Australia. In 1930 to 1966, the city was inhabited by as many as 20,000 residents, who worked as carriers of deadly blue asbestos. More than 2,000 deaths have been linked to mining activities in Whittingham, and the entire city is a contaminated place. Asbestos exposure can cause deadly diseases such as lung cancer. Out of concern for the safety and health of its residents, the local government decided to close down the town in 1978. In 2006, the government removed Whittingham from the map, removed the road signs leading to it, cut the power grid, and put up warning signs. Despite the signs scattered throughout the city, thousands of curious tourists visit every year. Despite frequent operations to clear Whittingham of the deadly asbestos residue, the town remained unsafe to live in. So guys, those are some ghost towns that have scary stories behind them. Do you think there are other cities that are uninhabited and scary besides these cities? Please write your comments below and don't forget to like the video if you like it or dislike the video if you don't like it. Thanks for watching and see you in another video.